Welcome back, Mighty Vandals, Tubs of the Club, your Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brian Marceau, joined today by producer Redacted, the man in the it's not shadows, because if you're watching, it's a goddamn brick wall behind him, Marten Heemstra. Martin, how's it going?
Going good. It's another week. We're so close to Vandal football. I am pretty excited.
Close, dude. I mean, the FCS season starts this week, which, spoiler alert, means we have a Big Sky Pick'em to close the show. But we got a lot to get to first. And before we get to that, we have special guest joining the show. James Tormund Aldrich, former Vandal beat reporter for the Argonaut, current reporter. He can tell us where. But today, it's not his first time. I think it's your second time on Tubbs, dude. James, how's it going? James joining the club on mute right away. Now,
there we go. Should be good now.
Dude, it's on brand. On brand. That's usually Dallas's go-to right there. You did it already. You ripped the Band-Aid off. Things are obviously going to just repeat from there on. How's it going?
I am doing quite well. I head back to the Palouse in about a week, so that's quite exciting. Not really doing anything right now, just waiting to get back and do some grad school things. But I've been doing, technically, I guess, some reporting stuff. I have a social media page on Instagram called Clips by James. Shout out to the 60 followers I have on there. But we're building that up for said grad program. And I'm excited to get back and watch some Vandal football starting out next week in Pullman. A team that I know dang near nothing about. So,
and dude, that's our point to begin. By the way, show is brought to us by Hughes River Expedition. So, look, hey, full disclosure, Dallas is not here. Trevor Junt from the Lewiston Tribune was set to be on, but he fell ill. So I gave James a call because I was thinking, all right, if you're just tuning in today, and I'm not saying everyone's like this, but a lot of Vandal fans, they're just like Martin referenced, you're getting into it right now, as in you're ramping up for Vandal football. So for the people who don't really know a ton, James is your stand-in. But in addition to that, today, James is not a reporter. He is the Tubbs of the Club Supreme Court Justice Aldrich, who... Look, like James said, he covered Idaho back in 2023 as a beat reporter, but hasn't been following him since. So James probably has a ton of questions, and we're going to do our best to sell, and Martin's going to join in this too. We're going to do our best to sell James on the case for and the case against Idaho, and then we'll see how he rules when we pick the entire season. So with that background set, Justice Aldrich, I mean, look, you haven't been paying it. Like I said, you haven't been paying attention. So when you think of Vandal football as someone who's not deep in it right now, there's probably a few questions you have. So where do you start?
I think the biggest question that I worry almost about is who the heck does Idaho have in the secondary? Who's going to be locking down the skies? I know some of the D line that we brought in, Donovan Parham, I'm excited about. And then obviously the quarterback room, we know who the starter is. But the only thing I know about Joshua Wood is that he played in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, I think is right. And then where the offensive line stands, what that looks like, younger guys, older guys there, I know. And other than that, Brian, I'm a little lost on Vandal football. I'd usually be, there by now watching 2 scrimmages and fall camp, and I'm sitting at my house as my mom in the background there made dinner. So,
okay, so you're saying, hey, phase 1, your question is player turnover.
Yeah.
Which, if you've been listening to the show, obviously Idaho lost guys, but so did most of the Big Sky. Idaho has 56 returning lettermen, the second most in the Big Sky Conference. So I guess I want to hit a couple parts with player turnover before we hit any other areas. So phase 1, there's some key groups that Idaho does not have turnover. So for example, the running back room of Eli Cummings, Nate Thomas, and Art Williams, who, if you listen to my after the practice, after scrimmage episode, you heard Art Williams is getting starters treatment. There's essentially no turnover in the running back room. Wide receiver, there's turnover there. Now, there's certainly some addition if you're talking tight ends. Gabe Hoffman and Jake Cox are for sure going to be those are your top 2 tight ends, and Idaho looks like they're going to run a decent amount of 12 personnel using both those guys. Hoffman is a huge target, and he's a big blocker. So that area, not as much to pay attention to. Wide receiving room, I just think that everyone in the world freaks out about wide receivers turning over, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. We saw that 2 years ago when Hayden Hatton and Jermaine Jackson left, and last year Mark Hamper joined Dwyer, pick up right where they left off. Just the distribution looks different. Thomas Ford in his post-game interview talked about 4 wide receivers who look like they're battling for that number 1 with no clear-cut number 1. I can tell you Tony Harstein and Emerson Cortez Menjivar look like they're going to be the top 2 pass catchers. And then it's after those 2, that's where we're going to see stuff sort out. So those are some of the knowns. Now you talked about O-line. O-line's another one that I think the turnover is less scary because Idaho kept a good amount of guys, also a good amount of depth pieces from last year, from what I saw of the ones in the O-line, the one O-line in the scrimmage. That looks, it's not Montana State. No one's going to confuse Idaho's O-line from Montana State or North Dakota State. But the ones that look like the returners got led by guys like Nate Azaparty, Charlie Vleem, those guys I think are going to probably take a baby step from last year, or there's reason to believe they could take a little step up, provided injuries don't hit them. Once injuries hit, like every school is not Montana State, North Dakota State, there is, of course, a gap between the ones and the twos. But a worthwhile point for you, James, is Idaho picked up 4 transfers from 3 Power 4 transfers plus a WSU O-line transfer. None of those guys are starting on the O-line, which is good news for depth. But also, hey, keep in mind, just because a guy is a sexy school he came from doesn't mean things are going to change. So that was kind of sprinting through the offense. We'll talk. There's parts to talk about defense, but like the thing that I think is going to sell people, or people should be sold on, for Idaho being different offensively is I think Idaho probably, as they upgraded at quarterback. I am 100% a believer in Joshua Wood. Dude is going to be a weapon on the ground, not a guy who can run opportunistically. He can. Idaho is going to call designed runs for Joshua Wood. That's going to be a part of Idaho's repertoire that has not been the case for Idaho for the last 3 seasons. We could go back further, but I only care about the good seasons. And all Jason, next time, Idaho did not have a quarterback you wanted to call designed runs for. Joshua Wood is that guy. He's going to cause problems on the ground for a ton of teams in the Big Sky. If you don't trust my observations, trust Fresno State's from last year. The dude played in every single game last year at Fresno State, and as a runner, only a passer in really 1 game. So that means the question for Joshua Wood, James, that you probably have is, okay, he can run, but can the dude pass? My answer is yeah. He's throwing. Idaho's going to call a good amount of pass plays, similar to like how it was with Jack Lane last year. A lot of intermediate passes across over the middle, or cuts towards the sideline. He's got a rocket. He has a clearly stronger arm than Lane had last season. Only bring that up as a reference point. He throws rockets on those short to intermediate passes. The jury is not yet in for me, just based off watching on how much on what kind of deep arm he has, because I look in scrimmage, I saw just like a pass. So that's the one I can't answer. Where that may look different. A dude's at Idaho and not a Power 5 school, so there obviously has to be something that's off. So, hey, Martin, I'm going to bring you in real quick because you've been to practice too. I ran through offensive stuff to give James kind of a background on Idaho, which to me is, I truly believe, upgrade at quarterback. The running back room, it's the same dudes with an extra year of development. Wide receiver room is kind of a tabula rasa, not completely, but it's going to be different. Ford's been open about he doesn't think there's yet been a clear-cut number 1 who's asserted himself, but there's candidates. And I think probably for what Ford wants to do, I think at least the 1 and 2 tight end are a step up. So our question then is like, can the O-line take the step? That's my quick version of it. You have been to practice more than me, Martin, talking offensively. If you're trying to sell this Supreme Court justice on Idaho, What are you talking about?
To me, it just seems like they feel they. It looks the same, but it's different. There's going to be I think there's going to be some more wrinkles to the thing. For speaking more from maybe the play calling and formation stuff, there's going to be a more variety to it than just what Eck did. There's not going to. It's granted I never went to a scrimmage, but their scrimmages, like the plays stuff that I went to, there's going to be some wrinkles, not like the stuff like the hamper cat that we've seen before, not like the. There's going to be uniqueness to it that we haven't seen, and there's like like Brian said, there's questions, like, don't say questions, but there's not really been a wide receiver that stepped up. I mean, there's names that make plays, but there's no like you said, the Hayden Hattons or the JJs or the JDs. The
Not
other
yet.
Not yet, yeah, not yet. I mean, after maybe a couple weeks, there's probably gonna be some solidification on that. But I think right now you could probably guess one of them and probably be right, maybe two. But I'm not a gambler, and I don't want to bet on that stuff. I think I'm not as worried on the deep ball stuff that, like, I wouldn't say the deep worried. Worried's not the right word, but like there has been some, and he can throw it. I mean, is there accuracy deep? I mean, not everybody's perfect on the deep ball, but I mean, he can launch it deep if he has to. But there's more. I saw more like with the medium and short pass stuff with Woods that you feel way good about. But I think there's
You're saying that's the relative strength.
yeah, relative strength, yeah, for him. Like can he throw deep? Absolutely. It's not as say accurate as a quarterback we had. Say it's not. It's more accurate than a quarterback that we had 6 years ago. But it's but it's better, and I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, hey James, I'm gonna throw to you for follow-ups, but I'm all in on if I think Joshua Wood is a right off the bat, top 3 quarterback in the Big Sky. I'm completely game that this guy is going to make a case for the top quarterback in the conference. I mean, he's got the tools. But okay, James, you're the Supreme Court Justice. You get to ask follow-ups. We just talked a bit about the offense. You want to keep talking offense. You got defensive questions. Where's your head at?
Yeah, I think just bouncing off that, the one thing that I think I complained about at Idaho during my 4 years was not getting those short and medium balls. We'd throw deep. Hayden Hatton would go and make a defender look silly, but we weren't hitting the middle of the field and letting guys go up. I would love to see more of, obviously, as Brian said, that QB run game, but also those short, medium passes where we're not having to go for it on 4th and 7 within the 30. We can go for it on 4th and 2 because we're closer to the line. I think the biggest question, as I mentioned, is just what the secondary really is going to look like this year. Losing Malley and losing Jackson in the linebacker room, and then whoever else we lost in further down the field at the safety corner positions. Just kind of, you guys know what those guys look like. I think that's probably the main question I have and that I've seen a lot.
Okay, so you're still talking player turnover that you need to be sold on. So I'm going to say picking the secondary that's a fair place to start if you're, let's say, Vandal skeptic right now. The secondary is a complete reset, as in like no starter coming back. Honestly, like the only secondary, I'm not counting linebackers in secondary for a moment. Just you brought up linebackers. I just want to clarify that for listeners too. So Jamel Blendman was on the 2 deep as a DB last year, but he did not see a ton of action. Based off what I saw in the scrimmage, he is definitely going to get starters, at least some starter level run, whether that means as an actual 1 or as a 2. Blendman's going to get time in the secondary. The rest has been it's a combination of transfers and, I mean, surprisingly, some freshmen who are likely going to get some time. So Caleb Ricks, freshman out of Gonzales, Louisiana, is a guy that Ford called out in the interview after the scrimmage as a guy who's made some serious progress in his time at Idaho. He's a guy who looked like he's going to be getting some reps with the ones. We know Hyson Dalton, a redshirt sophomore transfer from Furman, where he was a starter as a defensive back. he is definitely looks like he's going to get at the least starter rotation level run, whether that means as like the literal number one or not. He's a guy who's going to see the field. He's done it at the FCS level and contributed for sure. So the rest, now this is to be fair, I think this is the hardest group to project from this far out because, hey, University of Montana has 28 returning lettermen. So projecting Montana means projecting a ton of transfers. Like that's kind of how this group is. I ran through a decent amount of the names in the secondary in the episode last week, but hey, Hayden John at safety, that guy, number 10, he's a starter. To my knowledge, he's going to be one of the he's going to be one of the guys who has the mic set on during the communication set on, calling plays. And Zach Woostig, transfer from top 5 Portland State. He was a starter at Portland State through the first 5 games before he got hurt. He's healthy. He was a guy who in the practice looked like he was getting starter level reps. Marten, talking secondary, anything you want to add there?
I think there's still going to be some rotation early on. I think it'll kind of be like the wide receiver room a little bit in the beginning where there's going to be a lot of people playing. Then eventually people are going to kind of come through. I know I wouldn't say the big ones, I think, talking literal here. Brian, I wasn't at the scrimmage this past weekend, but like the other one name that I kind of saw getting some reps early on at practice in fall camp because spring ball, I think you believe he was hurt, was Tim Jackson. He was kind of another one that stood out a little bit, was making some plays. Big, maybe not a big guy, but he was making some stuff early on, at least when I was watching. Was another one to kind of at least watch out for.
Yeah, Tim Jackson listed as a safety junior transfer from College of the Canyons.
I think he's a 6'5" one, right?
Yeah,
that's him.
Yeah, he is a 6'5" one. So I guess I think I think the safeties are a little bit more known quantities as at least like, hey, we've seen Hayden John produce at least some at Idaho. We know he can hit pretty damn hard. We know Zach Lustig has contributed as at the starter level at Portland State. Defensive back is that's just the one that I don't think anyone can actually answer that question very well. Now, what I will say is Jason Mayer in the comments section hitting it is defensive questions, depth, linebackers gelling is Coach Dennison's schemes too complex for Idaho. This kind of gets in the other area that if you're a normie relative to Idaho, it's a new coaching staff. So, from however, 1,000-yard viewpoint, 1,000 miles away, if you're not paying attention, like, hey, they're just new guys who don't know anything about them. I really think Court Dennison is going to matter for Idaho as a defensive play caller. Guy used to be, he's a pretty young coach. He used to be a co-DC at Arkansas. Now he's at Idaho. And, what the players have been saying in all the player interviews posted on the Idaho Athletics YouTube page is Dennison's scheme is a lot of different formations. However, when Dennison talks, he kind of emphasizes it's different formations, but like the principles are simple. He, in the last interview, he said look, his basic thing is you want to confuse the quarterback, you want to confuse the opposing line. If you can do that as a defense, you're going to be doing a ton of things right. All the player interviews, of course, and including the ones Tubbs the club have done, called Court Dennison an extremely fiery guy, extremely aggressive guy, where you expect something that's just going to be different on Idaho defensively is they're probably going to be more aggressive than they were under Dan Jackson. Now, I don't know how to say this for a fact, but tonally, they sound like they want to be more aggressive than they were under Rob Orich. We'll see how that works out. But hey, we talked a little bit coaching, talked a little bit secondary. Justice Aldrich, what else do you need to know about? What other follow-ups do you have?
Yeah, I think, as you just mentioned, Coach Dennison, heard a lot of great things in the offseason about him. I kind of want to know what Idaho's schemes will look like, what they've looked like in practice. Not going too deep into the weeds, because there's probably some Montana fan out there who will listen and be like, that's what Idaho's going to run. These 3 winners on the internet told us. And so I guess just kind of what Coach Dennison has gotten the defense to look like. And then also maybe touch a little bit on Coach Linehan and what he's bringing to the offense.
So I'm going to do that in the inverse because the Linehan answer is relatively simple. We kind of touched on it earlier. is a little bit more intermediate pass game, a little bit more trying to get to players in space, a little bit more like running back pass game. And some just here's my reference point. This is not meant as a put down, but for those who pay attention last season, especially when Jack Wagner was, the quarterback for Idaho under Wagner, like they essentially exclusively for passing through a lot of deep balls. That's not going to be the case this year. Like, hey, Wagner's the number 4. He was the number 2 quarterback for Idaho and started half the season last year. Wagner's probably number 4 quarterback in this room right now. If you're gonna play in this offense, it looks like you have to be able to hit those short intermediate passes, and you have to get those things out quick. Hey, Joshua Wood can absolutely do that, and also the new number 2 quarterback Sawyer Teeney looks like he's doing it pretty well too. Joe Speck's already shown he can play solid, so if Idaho gets to the point that number 3 quarterback's playing like it's a rough season already. But I feel okay offensively with those being some of the main things that will change. Coach Thomas Ford has been open about, hey, some of the stuff that worked under Eck, like, hey, how they use the run game, like they're still going to do that. How they use play action pass, they're still going to do that. Like there's going to be some creative stuff. But the big thing that I saw that was just quite obvious, and actually this kind of matched a little bit with some of Jack Lane offense, is just the passing was a lot more of the sideline, a lot more across the middle, which is some of the stuff I was hoping to see. Defensively, man, that's hard to answer because what Cord Dennison has said is like, hey, he's not throwing his entire scheme at them and saying, hey, here's an ocean of stuff to do. Let's go do it all and do it shitty. They're picking up the system incrementally. Now, most of the looks I saw in the scrimmage were, hey, 4 up front and a little mix of 4-3, mix of 4-2-5, of course. And then, have it doing a little bit of stuff to have the blitzes come from confusing angles. The biggest thing I can talk about is the defense. Now, the ones only played for a little bit in scrimmage last week. Listen to the whole thing on my episode I recorded a few days ago. The defense dominated much of the scrimmage I saw. Martin, you can talk about this a little bit more than I can because you've been to more practices. The reporting out of most of Idaho's practices has been defenses looked really good. But they haven't won. They haven't won every single day. The offense absolutely has its strengths, and there are times that it shines through. But I guess, Martin, I gave my description of what I understand that I can talk about with Court Dennison's defense. Lot of different formations, but the principles are supposed to be simple, and they're not throwing the whole book at everyone right away. What do you have to add about what you saw defensively in practice?
I definitely it seems like there's going to be a lot more like you said, there's going to be a lot more aggression. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more. I think there's going to be a lot more pre-snap movement with the defense. There's not going to be a lot of just wait and react. They're just going to have head down and go. So there might be it might burn them on some stuff, but they seem a lot more aggressive. They are communicating with each other. They are not taking their chance. What I'm trying to say here, they are like the players are coaching each other up, but they make mistakes to help each other get better. It's not just relying on the coaches at all the times. There's not really a lot to add to what Brian has said already. Like the only thing I can add is like other stuff I've seen is like I've seen some 3-3-5 type stuff. It's like stuff like that, or kind of almost like a 5-2-3 almost, but
Okay.
there's going to be a different on defense. There's going to be differences.
That matches exactly what Dennis had talked about in the times I'd heard him interviewed. Is just different looks, and like the practice I saw. I'm not saying every snap was 4 up front. That just happened to be what I saw the majority of the time. That doesn't switching up formations is part of what he's talked about as far as like confusing the opposing team. So, Jay, just to button this up, James, because you talk about, hey, you want to know more about this Idaho team. The linebacking room is the top 3 linebackers. 2 of them are returners from last year who were starters for a time. In Isaiah King, he's back. Dylan Lane looks like he is reasserted himself closer to the role he had early in his second season at Idaho under Jason Eck, because he looks like he's clearly going to be starter. And then Will Cornelson looks like the kind of the other linebacker who for sure is going to get a good amount of reps. There's other guys depth who we're going to see too, guys like Cruz Hetburn, I saw get a good amount of run with the twos in the scrimmage I saw. But then on the defensive line, that's where we have a little bit more continuity. You already talked about Donovan Parham, who he's the guy who pops off in practice for sure. But Zach Krotzer, he was a good contributor last year as a starter. He's back. Sam Brown, a good contributor last year as a starter. He's back. Matthias McLean, he was a solid contributor last year. He's going to get some reps, at least starters level reps too. Maurice Heim, number 5, transfer from Washington, is another name that, like, right off the top looks like if he's not a starter, he'll get a good amount of reps.
The other one that I saw kind of, I can't remember if you mentioned it. The other person I saw getting a lot in the rotation at the practice I was at was a kid out of Post Falls, Trevor Miller. He's been another guy that was making some plays every now and then. I mean, probably not a world beater starter, Big Sky Conference right away, but
99 Trevor Miller. Yes, absolutely
yes.
saw it. Yeah.
He'll be getting some, and he'll be getting in that rotation too. And the other linebacker that I saw play a lot with King out sometimes was Wayne Queen from I think it's Lake City, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, Wayne Queen, exactly, from Lake City and Cortland, Idaho.
He's kind of the other one we'll probably see a good chunk of. He's earned some. He's played a good chunk, and we'll definitely see some of him as well.
Okay, so we've talked a good amount about some coaching changes, James. We talked a good amount about players. We'll obviously hit schedule stuff kind of in the moment as we go through, but you're the one we're making the case to. What have we not? What else are you curious about? What do you not have answered, or you feel like you're ready to start picking games?
Well, I have one final question, and for anybody who knows me, it's probably weird that it took this long to get here. And I know that this doesn't happen often in scrimmage, but do we know at all what Idaho's special teams, which looked pretty mediocre last year, will look like coming into this season?
We know that Cameron Pope is going to be the starter, the starting kicker, which Ford brought that up in his interview after scrimmage. Pope sat out, but that was precautionary. Ford said if the season started today, that Pope would be the guy leading the way. Now, watching a scrimmage, it is hard to gauge exactly what special team is going to be because those are some of your high risk plays for injury. So there was not a huge amount in the scrimmage I saw of contact.
I can comment on the other stuff just because of the practice of what I've seen from they're doing their quote practice rep / game situation stuff.
You take the wheel.
It's Xander's gonna be a commenter on the show, and I think friend of the pod at this point. I'd say Xander K. Jekyls is gonna be the starting long snapper. His stuff's always looked good. I believe also LJ Harm, I believe, is still the punter right now. I could be wrong. It's been a couple weeks since I've been at a practice. And then kickoff stuff, it's going to be Owen Forsman or is it Owen Adams is the other one? I forget. I get the two mixed up, but Forsman they're going to be kind of, I think, the kickoff people. I believe it's going to be one of those two because they have the monster legs to get it far back and get the touchbacks.
Yeah, kick return game, the punt return game is going to be some combination of Eli Cummins, potentially Lanyata Alexander, transfer from Montana State. He did not play at scrimmage, I saw, but also Davion Superalis, who's new to the team as well. He's new to wide receiver kick return, but he returned a kick for a touchdown in the scrimmage I saw.
The other name that kind of for kick return, punt return I saw, I could have just been because they were just getting reps for people, was Enderman Cortez Menuvar was the other one.
He did a little bit of that last season.
Yeah. He'll probably be another one to look out for a little bit.
But that's a fair question. That's one that I think it's hard to answer right now. Because Idaho does Idaho doesn't have like a Michael Wortham coming in as an All-American from Eastern Washington. So Idaho's like every team that's good in the Big Sky. There's some knowns, there's some unknowns. And Marten is looking very, very excited about something. Oh, I see what he's talking about. Yeah. But you know what? Hey, Xander, if you have anything you think we should acknowledge special teams wise, you put it in the comment section. We'll read it out loud. Before we get to picking games, last time, Justice Aldridge, what do you still need to talk about? What do you still need to be sold on before you're ready to make your adjudication by picking Idaho games?
I think every question that I had both last fall and in the off season, or last spring, I guess, has been pretty well answered. You know, I was didn't really know anything about Joshua Wood, so to hear that everything that I want out of a quarterback, Joshua Wood has, brings me a lot of joy. And then hearing Hayden John being one of those starting guys, I've been high on him for a while. Excited to see him getting out there. That'll be fun to watch. So I think I'm ready to pick games whenever you guys are.
I do want to spend 1 second just acknowledging O linemen. Like I talked about the names of some of the contributors in my last episode, but hey, if you missed the last episode, we know that some of the guys are going to get starters level reps on the O line. We have returner Leighton Vining. He's a junior. We have redshirt freshman Leon. I know I butchered his name. His first name is pronounced weird. Leon Evans, number 51. Keegan Henson from Meridian, Idaho, Mountain View High School. He was getting reps, looking like he's going to be with the ones as well. Everyone knows about Nate as a party. Charlie Vleem, both those guys are returners. But then, generally speaking, Idaho lost a couple starters to the transfer portal, but kept the overwhelming majority of the youth in the O-line room. So what you're going to look at is, to me, I think the O-line can take a step. Now, one of the questions for Idaho this year is, hey, what type of step can they take? And I think having a mobile quarterback is going to make things easier for them too. Having more diverse set of play calls, defenses are having to project for. I think that's going to help too. But O-line development to me is probably what's going to be set what the ceiling is of this Idaho team. I think there's reason to be optimistic that there's a step forward from last year, but the question is like, hey, what type of step forward can they take? But before we get to picking games, dude, Martin, we need to talk about Hughes River Expedition. And look, if you're looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal owned and operated since 1976 and are ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or the Selway, and check out special trips like the one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, and fish some of the most remote stretches of river in the country. You just bring your clothes, let HRE handle the rest. Call in right now at 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. It is time to pick the games. So
The Big Sky or pick the season?
Well, I meant pick the season.
Okay.
I meant pick the season. Like, no, I know we hold picking off Idaho till the end, but like this show is different. The point of this is not to pick the Idaho game. So, Martin, I'm sure you can find a way to get the schedule up if you want to. And allegedly Dallas is joining. When Dallas joins, allegedly, we're gonna he'll fit in wherever the hell he fits in. Okay. So, Martin, game 1 in Pullman. We'll do the big preview next week, of course, August 30th, 7:30 p.m. on the CW, which I do want to bring up. That is a nationally televised game. Virtually the entire nation gets a CW. Idaho has 3 games that are nationally televised. I think that's a pretty big deal. Martin, Washington State to open the season. The Cougs have a new first-year coach, and I went on the record when I recorded earlier. WSU's had their practices locked down for a while. They're scared. They're scared, dude. They're not going to name a starting quarterback. They're scared of Idaho. So just for our continued rotation, I'm going to go Martin, James, me for picking, just so we can keep going through. Martin.
One thing I did, because like I do think Idaho is going to win. I hope Idaho wins an FBS game this year, and I think there's a pretty good chance they do it this year, just based off of what we've said so far. They've convinced me they're going to win one. I think it's going to be Washington State this year, with just because my one thing I'll mention is Court Dennison as a player at Washington is 3-2 against them, and I'm going to guess because he is a Husky, he fucking hates the Cougs, and that's what I'm going with, WSU.
All right, James.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question here. I think the Vandals win this, and The reason why I say that is because I have seen more sorority girls on my TikTok For You page at WSU over the past week than I have seen any clips of WSU football. So, if their sorority recruitment is going better than their uh, football pushing out of content is going, then I think Idaho wins this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not even close.
Yeah. Hey, James, do me a favor. Check the private chat real quick. So hey, my take here is Martin. I'm similar to you. I look. I've got a little bit of intel on WSU, and honestly, like what I was been told culture wise is if you watch Idaho's practice, then you watch WSU's practice. What you see at Idaho is what looks like a bunch of guys who they're intense, but they like each other. At WSU, apparently, like there's like the practice has been pretty combative and they don't talk a ton. It sounded a lot like Wyoming from last season. If you guys, I don't know if you listened, guys, to the Wyoming broadcast last year when the broadcasters talked about how like, hey, their coach said no shit talking, so they just don't talk to each other. I'm not saying Rogers brought the no shit talking thing to Pullman, but was told that the relationship on that team looks kind of weird right now. Like, and I said, like, they're not going to name a starting quarterback against an FCS team. Oh, dude, no, I'm picking Idaho. Definitely going Idaho for week one. Week two, Martin. And I got to bring this up too for Idaho. The first 3 weeks, the Vandals do not leave the Palouse. September 6th, hosting St. Thomas, Martin.
Look, I know St. Thomas is a good they are a good school. They were really good at FCS, not FCS, D3 where they got kicked out of their conference. They've been pretty good so far with being in the Pioneer League. I know the Pioneer League's not the best FCS conference, so they did get that win over Eastern last year. I'm still gonna go U of I. Idaho's gonna win this one.
Yeah, I think one Thomas is substantially better than the other, and Coach Ford could probably win this if we just sent him out at running back. So I think the Vandals win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, St. Thomas was 6-6 in the Pioneer non-scholarship conference, and if you just, I know, like, hey, these teams are not all the same, but yeah, there's nothing that makes me look at St. Thomas and think, okay, I know these guys are going to upset Idaho. I think they might be a little bit tougher than you guess for the first 2 quarters, but this is penciling in Idaho here as a win is pretty easy. And full disclosure, I've been wanting Idaho to get as many Pioneer Conference games in the OOC as possible. So mission accomplished. Week 3, Utah Tech.
I'm just gonna go Utah Tech. Future conference foe. They do not look good. I know they're kind of like in the up and up, but I do not think it'll be. I think it'll be similar to the St. Thomas game.
Unfortunately for me, Idaho has only won one game when I have been halfway or all the way across the country. I'll be in the JFK airport when this game takes place, but I still don't think it's going to be close. Dixie State, Utah Tech, whatever the heck we call them. See you in a couple years in conference play, but for now, it's Idaho.
Yeah, to hit the comment section. And hey, listeners, you throw your scores in here. We'll make sure to get you caught up. Jason Mayer picked Idaho 31-17 over WSU, picks Idaho 42-21 over St. Thomas, then 35-12 over Utah Tech. Utah Tech won a single game in the WAC last year. This is another kind of OOC game that the Montana Grizzlies if Idaho gets an OOC game that Montana would schedule, I'm going to call that a win for the Vandals as far as a program. At the literal level, no, I think Idaho has a very good shot at cruising into 3-0 through their first 3 games. I'm picking Idaho to win. I think that the Utah Tech game was probably less dramatic than the St. Thomas game at this point. Both those are home games. So at this point, we're cruising into week 4, September 20th. For the first time, Idaho leaves the Palouse when they travel to San Jose State to take on the Spartans of the Mountain West. Martin, how is the final OOC game for Idaho going to
go? I think this will be Idaho's first loss. I think San Jose State's actually really good. They're not as good as they're saying not as good. They're not that dog shit team that we've seen in like big in their previous year in past years. But the Nui Montalolo, I believe it is, has actually sort of rebuilt this San Jose State team, and they're probably going to be competing for that Mountain West Conference title. It's going to be close, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be. I don't. It's they're not. Idaho's not going to win, but they're not going to. It's not going to be a blowout loss.
Yeah, this is a game I'm, you know, worried about for Idaho, but I don't think it's going to be a tough loss. I do think it will. San Jose State's going to win. However, if what happened with Wyoming last year was their quarterback was really bad, and I played running back / wide receiver at Wyoming on College Football 25. That's how I found out their quarterback was not great. San Jose State's quarterback in College Football 26, not great. But I do think this is probably Idaho's first loss of the year.
Yeah, San Jose State finished 7-6 in 2024 after a loss to South Florida in the whatever the fuck bowl was, the Hawaii Bowl. But that means 7-5 on a Mountain West schedule. They did beat a team like WSU, and they also beat Wyoming. So hey, maybe last season that would have been a tight game. But I'm with you guys too. I think San Jose State. Now look, if Idaho gets the WSU game, to me is so key. Because if Idaho can sit at 3-1 out of the OOC, they're going to be, honestly, they're going to be, counting the good teams too in the Big Sky. There's probably not going to be anyone who's in a better spot. I mean, hey, Montana State opens up with Oregon, then South Dakota State. Montana has Central Washington, which for playoff purposes does not count the way a D1 game starts. But I'm with you guys. If you're picking a FBS game for Idaho to win and lose, the one to pick for a win is WSU. I'm going to go with the loss, San Jose State, but I think it'll be close. Jason Mayer in the comment section saying Idaho 20, San Jose State 21. That gives Idaho, that ends Idaho's out-of-conference season, and Idaho goes on their bye week not too long after their Big Sky Conference opener on ESPN2 at 7:15 p.m. Pacific time in Missoula against the Montana Grizzlies. Martin, we already know where you're going to go here.
Yeah, it's a new year. It's a new me this year. Is there people that have met me over the past month have known, but some things also stay the same. I'm picking U of I.
Anybody who knows James knows that I haven't been a fan of the University of Montana Grizzlies since I was about 7 years old. Idaho's going to blow them out. I don't know if they have a quarterback. The best player on their team is a former Vandal and Diesel. I want to go into Missoula and make that game look about as bad as their city planning.
Deep cut from Montana native Chief Justice Aldrich. Okay, Montana definitely has as many questions to answer as any team in the Big Sky, with, as already spoken, 28 returning lettermen. You correctly brought up, James, what they're going to do at quarterback is unclear. It looks like it's between Ayat from last season and Jensen, transfer from USC, who did not throw any passes at USC. So ton of unknowns there. Not a single defensive starter returns. I really, really believe that this is going to be a huge game for Idaho at like the national reputation level. Also being on ESPN. Being on ESPN2 is a huge deal because they'll be essentially competing with no one at that hour. I think you have to pick Idaho at this point. Like, the big juxtaposition between Idaho and Montana is everyone knows who the Montana coaches are. And look, hey, say what you want about Bobby Hauck. He's never had a shitty team. He's not going to have a shitty team. But you watch that team the last 3 years, some of the stuff that you think is a given in Montana, like it hasn't been a given. Defensively, that team was not the same team they'd been for the last couple of years. And offensively, like no one accuses that team of maximizing talent. So I think the pick is Idaho. And I think it's going to be a kick-ass environment, sold-out game. But I think honestly, Idaho is going to love that environment. And I don't think they're going to be scared of Montana at all. So we're in a shocking level of an agreement so far. Idaho mercifully gets the bye week after Montana off to prep for homecoming against the vaunted Northern Colorado Bears, Martin.
U of I is going to win this one. I don't think Norco is going to be good this year at all.
Martin, has Norco ever been good? They haven't been, at least at the 4 years I was there. Idaho takes this one easily.
Yeah, the big question for Northern Colorado is whether they're going to score more than 12 points a game. The Bears have not done that the last 2 years. I think the bigger deal here is just it's homecoming. If I look at the schedule, and I think the scheduling gods actually helped Idaho out quite a bit as far as spacing out some of the rougher games. And you know what? I'm not worried about Northern Colorado in Moscow. So no, Northern Colorado. The week after, Idaho travels to Eastern Washington to take on the mighty Eagles, or the mighty Aaron Best, whatever you want to call them. The guys who, honestly, man, the reporting out of Eastern has been ugly with what the upcoming season is going to be, including Aaron Best, like joking that his offense was kind of like middle school boys at a dance, awkward with talking to each other. Sounds great, right? Martin. Eastern Washington, Idaho, aka the Chisco Cup. I'm not letting that one go away. Who are you picking?
I'm gonna go. I think Idaho's gonna win this one. I don't think it'll be blowout win, but I think it'll be a comfortable win for Idaho.
Yeah, I think with this one, Idaho probably just doesn't even have to make or take up space in the trailer and pack the Chisco Cup. Just keep it in this nice little glass box. I think it'll be closer because Eastern and Idaho is always a great game to watch. But I think Idaho does take this one too.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Idaho. I mean, I just think we've seen the trend in Eastern, and I think losing Afton Chisholm is a huge deal. And I think having like the quarterback for Eastern, he's a runner, but he's not Jared Taylor was not a particularly great passer last season. That's who their starter's set to be. Yeah, I think Idaho's an easy pick. What I actually am more interested in is shifting to talk about Montana. How do you guys feel about the Grizzlies getting the greatly desired week 1 bye game? I'm not serious. We're going to talk. We can shift to talk about the next game. But I actually am serious. The Grizz do have the week 1 bye, which I think is the worst thing you can have. In the comments section.
They're playing 12 straight. They're playing 12 games straight, right?
Yep. They have the week 1 bye, and then they're just rolling. That's the season. So to attend to the comment section, Montana, Jason Mayer picks Idaho over Montana 35-10. Turner Webb saying Idaho 28-14 over Montana. Jason Mayer saying a blowout for homecoming 42-13 versus Northern Colorado. For Eastern, Mayer says Idaho 35, the Dirty Salty Birds 2. Turner Webb saying Idaho 38, Aaron Worst 10. I really think Idaho got a lot of help with the schedule. We can talk ceiling and floor once we've done all of this, but oh my God. We have a fourth.
Oh, man, I didn't realize I was going to get on here with you guys and JTA. What a hell of a room. You guys put a hell of a show together today.
Yeah, so we're 51 minutes in, meaning the introduction is just about over. So,
Perfect.
Dallas, you can jump in your cameo on vacation. I don't know if you listened earlier. You're in the presence of Supreme Court Justice Aldrich, who was a normie heading into this episode talking Idaho. So we made the case for and against what the Vandals are going to do. Right Beautiful. Now we're picking the season. We just finished the Eastern pick. But if you're just here for a minute or two, I'm guessing. So I'm going to give you the wheel. You take this where you want to.
Well, Brian, I'm going to actually produce this in public a little bit. How about you guys ask me questions if you've got any? Because I have no idea what you guys have covered. We literally just got out of the car. I have no idea what has happened in this last 52 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to make the quick case for and against Idaho to Justice Aldrich just while you're here.
Okay. Well, Justice Aldrich, thank you for presiding over this case, by the way. But man, when you look at Idaho's schedule, sure, it's not the cream puff schedule. It's not necessarily the worst. You're looking at possibly splitting the FBS games, outside shot at winning both.
all of us picked a split.
Perfect. I think Wazoo's probably shitting down their legs right now, looking at this Vandal team, especially when I think Joshua Wood is probably going to be the best quarterback in that game. And realistically, I think Josh Wood is going to end up being one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. You couple that with, again, there's so many question marks about the offense, about is Matt Linehan and Thomas Ford there. Thomas Ford has been a head coach before, but certainly not at this level. Matt Linehan has not called plays before. Like, there's so many question marks. But when you look at the overall talent of this team, we've seen Idaho replaced some of the greatest receiving cores in team history with, we were all a little bit concerned, hey, Jordan Dwyer should be pretty good. Mark Hamper ended up being just good enough to get himself into the Power Four. I think receiver Idaho is going to be just fine. I think Tony Harsty is going to have a good year. Emerson Cortez Menovar is going to have a great year. The running back room is loaded. There's so many offensive linemen that have returned. This team brings back so much that you see the question marks around it. There's less question marks than there are to just about every other team in the Big Sky. I truly, guys, right now, if I had to pick at this second, I would pick Idaho to win the Big Sky. So, Justice Aldrich, how was my argument there?
I would say it was pretty good. Probably better than Brian's. You were very more concise. Sorry, Brian. I do have one question for Dallas, though. Who the heck was that guy in the background that just showed me his belly?
I did not realize that happened. Was he a big, tall, bearded guy?
He was.
He was. So that is my best friend, Josh Olette. He was once the coach at La Habra High School, where Eric Berrier played. So he's just a football coach here in Southern California. So I'm glad that he got his belly on 2 tubs of the club for the world to see.
Yeah, we have unanimously picked so far Idaho to be 6-1 through their first 7 games, which for those who missed the reason Dallas's eyes popped open is like, hey, that means you're picking Idaho over Montana plus one of the FBS games we all picked over WSU. So Dallas, are you here a little bit longer or to join in with some of the picking, or you got to bounce?
Yeah, I've got probably 5, maybe 10 minutes left that I can steal away here.
Okay, so just to get you on the record, October 18th, Idaho at Eastern.
Oh, Idaho, not a question. I think Sawyer Teeney could come off the bench as the true freshman who just received his scholarship today. I think he could probably come in and lead this team to a victory over Eastern.
Okay, so now this is actually why I want to make sure Dallas got here. We're at the high point of the season. Everyone has this booked on their schedule. Everyone already has travel plans arranged. October 25th in Moscow, Military Appreciation Leadership Weekend. Idaho hosts the top 5 Portland State Vikings. Martin.
I'm going U of I.
I think the Portland State. No, Idaho wins this.
All right, Dallas, one here.
I mean, the only thing I have interesting about this game is maybe CJ Jordan plays. Maybe we get to see a former Vandal at quarterback for the Vikings when they proceed to then lose 55-10.
This is where you did bring it up, Dallas, and I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think that Idaho actually has a pretty favorable schedule, and phase 1, like as I acknowledged earlier, don't even leave the Palouse until September 20th. Then after the Montana game, don't really leave the Pacific Northwest until October 31st when they're on ESPN2 again at Northern Arizona, which is to say, like, hey, Idaho's going to beat Portland State. So on paper, Halloween, Friday night at 7:30 on ESPN2 at Northern Arizona. That is one of the real games in the Big Sky Conference season that is highlighted. Northern Arizona made the playoffs last season, got their ass kicked by an ACU team that Idaho beat with Jack Wagner at quarterback, and NAU put up 0 points. However, there's only 28 returning lettermen from that NAU team, one of which is Ty Pennington, who we talked about relatively extensively in our Big Sky Conference preview. So we'll let you listen to that from last week. Martin, Idaho at NAU.
I think Idaho wins this one. I think compared to last year, I think it's projecting a while, but I still think with what I've seen of Court Dennison's defense, I believe they'll be able to handle the Ty Pennington-led offense that with NAU. Dan Jackson showed it the last year, but I think it's going to be a relatively close win, but I think Idaho wins this one.
I might change my mind on October 30th about this pick, but I'm gonna divert away from Martin. Friday 7:30 Halloween scares me. Idaho late night, high elevation, whatever that matters. I think NAU might take this one. I might go back on my word in 2 months on Twitter, and you guys can call me out or whatever. But I didn't realize NAU was a MAC team and was able to schedule weekday games. So yeah, this is going to be a fun game to watch, but I am nervous about this one.
You can blame ESPN too for giving Idaho the Halloween night no competition, which I'm honestly, guys, I'm fine with that. All right, Dallas, Halloween, Idaho, NAU.
So with Judge James's points, I do not like Idaho at night. You guys have heard me bitch about that for years. Maybe the Thomas Ford era will be different than the Eck era, the Petrino era, the Akey era, going back over the last 30 years of not being able to really win past 3 p.m. With that said, if this game was held in week 3 or 4, I would probably pick NAU all day, every day, just because they do have that continuity of head coach and quarterback. I know they've only returned 28 guys, but Ty Pennington has known Coach Wright for multiple years, having followed him up from Division II. I would pick them just based off of that continuity at the beginning of the season. But I think you're talking, it's the end of October. You've really got to be maybe not firing on all cylinders, but the bulk of the season is through. You've got to have your stuff pretty situated. I think at that point, Idaho is going to be pretty clearly ahead of NAU in the conference, and I'm taking Idaho every single day. And now, with the caveat, I reserve the Judge James flip flop as well, because I could show up on the morning of the 31st and decide 7:30 p.m. on a Friday, Idaho doesn't have a chance. Right now, taking the Vandals every minute.
Yeah, I think that NAU and hey, Captain 58 brings up if we, meaning Idaho, are 6-1 or whatever going into that, I'm all in. Shakier if we, Idaho, aren't on a heater. I think that's fair, but I think that also applies to NAU. If you look at NAU's schedule, NAU could have 4 or 5 losses heading into that game. So I guess I'd flip that answer more on NAU. Whereas if the Lumberjacks, which by that point they'll have played Arizona State, Incarnate Word, Montana State, and UC Davis. I think, by the way, so they also have Southern Utah, who almost made the playoffs last year. If NAU has 4 or 5 losses heading into that game, which I think is the safest gamble, is that they have if they have at least 3 losses heading into the game, that's where I'm more defaulting towards Idaho. But I also agree, if Idaho's cruising the way that we're talking about right now, I'm going the Vandals. But I think also because of how Idaho's schedule plays out, I think there's injury. Hey, injuries are always luck, at least part of it. Idaho doesn't have some of their heavy hitters till the end of the season. NAU has their heavy hitters early. If I had to gamble who's healthier that week, I'd say Idaho. So I'm going to pick Idaho. And I'm also just going to say, Dallas, I love that you have to bring your PTSD with you everywhere, even when there's not a single coach or single player on this team that had virtually anything to do with those, except, hey, Matt Linehan, but he was the good part of some of those Idaho times you talked about. Yeah. But hey, the Vandal PTSD doesn't leave us.
In my defense, Brian, I have worked with attempted to work with the athletic department for a very long time, well before this podcast. And historically, they've always been extremely hard to deal with from leadership. The people, doing the grunt work, the boots on the ground, those people have always been great. It's the administration that does change out semi-regularly that has continued to just be the same way every year. So, coaches and players can change. Vandal PTSD does not.
I should have brought this up because Martin, hey, we've got Sac State next. This to me is the glut of Idaho's schedule. NAU, Sac State, UC Davis. How Idaho handles these 3 is going to dictate what playoff spot we're talking Idaho. If we're talking just squeaking into the playoffs and playing in the first round, if we're talking, hey, they get to skip the first round, but they're not hosting, or yes, getting a bye and hosting. These 3 games to me are the ones that are really telling you how the season's going to look. We all just picked NAU. I think we're going to have might have some splits here. Idaho, Sacramento State, Martin.
UC Davis first.
Sorry, Idaho, UC Davis. The game is in Moscow.
If things are going the way which I'm thinking they're going, I think Idaho gets the first win against UC Davis in quite a while. I can't remember the last time they beat them. It seems it's been a while, but I think the dome will be rocking. It's it's beginning of November football. I think the dome it'll be cold outside, but it'll be hot inside with a hotter atmosphere. Idaho wins.
This will be the first time in history that I have been in Moscow for a game against UC Davis, whether that's at home or on the road. So I think we finally get this monkey off our back, so to speak. Haven't beaten UC Davis since returning to the Big Sky Conference. It's family weekend, which means it's going to be loud. It's going to be inebriated. It's going to be fun. And I am going to take the Vandals while also rooting for Lan Larison to make the Patriots 53-man roster if he did well this weekend.
Shout out Larison and Efton Chisholm as well, both trying to make that roster. Man, you guys are going to hate me for this. Every single point that Judge James made is exactly what I was going to use, but in the opposite. Why Idaho is going to lose this game. This is something that has happened obviously for years and years and years. Idaho just has not been able to get that monkey off the back. If we're at this point of the season where we're going into that NAU game and it's 6-1, man, it looks on paper like it's you win on the road against NAU, you come home, UC Davis, Larison's gone, the Hawkins are gone. Everything looks like this is our time. That feels like the letdown game. It's family weekend. It should be loud. It should be crazy. The patented letdown at the end of the season. This team's not going to go undefeated. I would love to see that. It's not going to happen. I don't think they're going to go undefeated in the Big Sky. This, to me, is the circle of Sac State is a tough game. NAU is a tough game. UC Davis is a tough game. It's the one at home. It's the one that lines up as, man, a lot of things are pointing towards Idaho getting it done this year. And I just, there's something in my bones. I'm not going to pick Idaho to beat UC Davis until it's actually happened, because I have fallen on that sword every single year until this year. So I'm going to go with that.
UC Davis heading into that game, that's when Davis starts their run that's going to determine their postseason. They have at Idaho, at Montana State, hosting Sac State. I do know UC Davis named their quarterback, Caden Pinnick. He's a redshirt freshman. He beat out a senior on the team. So, hey, take that for what it's worth. And Davis has defensive continuity. This is the one that I'm really the most touchy about because I don't think Idaho is going to sweep UC Davis, Sac State. I just don't. And a lot of my answer here is going to be dependent on how Sacramento State looks. But I think the safest gamble, if I was picking one, is I'm going to be like Dallas. I'm going to pick Idaho loses to Davis. I think it'll be tight. I think this will be like game of the week in the Big Sky for sure. But one of the things I think that I try to keep in mind, especially new coaching staffs, like, hey, there's probably going to be like at least a game you feel like maybe they should have hung on to, but just didn't quite do it. This is that game to me. Martin, the following week at Sac with a silent K State.
I think this is the one Idaho loses of the three. I think it'll be similar to that. What is it? Was it the 2022 game where they only lost to Sac State? Was it 31-28? Something like that. That sounds about right. Fuck, I'm echoing. God damn it. That's what I think is going to. I think it's going to be Idaho loses this one.
I think the brick wall in the background is probably your issue, Martin. I think I might be the only person in the country who thinks Sac State's going to be ass this year. And I say that because their entire team is full of transfers. They have an entirely new coaching staff. I don't think Sac State is going to be as great as everyone thinks. I think the best thing about Sacramento State right now is that Shaquille O'Neal is doing something with their basketball program. I think Idaho goes into Sacramento, California with a coach that knows how special teams works. Usually we take trips down to California and we forget that kickers can kick field goals. But I think Idaho goes down there. They win this one. They remind people that they're a good team, and that they can win in the state of California. I'm going to take the Vandals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vandals here as well. I think it's been pretty well documented, my thoughts on Sac State and Brennan Marion and the Go-Go offense. Judge James, I will say Nick Davis is also in your camp of thinking that Sac State is going to be ball sack state again this year. I do think Sac State's going to be pretty good. I do think they're going to be a playoff team. But again, just the way that the schedule falls out, to me, it looks like UC Davis is the letdown. You go back to Sacramento, you kick in their teeth, and just I think Court Dennison's defense is going to have some answers for the Go-Go. I feel like that's going to be the get right. Hey, I know they're a good team. It's going to be a battle, but if the season goes the way I think it's going to, that loss to UC Davis, guys are going to be fired up. You go punch the Stingers right in the ball sack. So with that said, very quickly, guys, I do need to bounce. I am sorry that I was only able to make a quick cameo. Any final things you had for me before I bounce?
Dallas, you want to quickly pick the last game of the season, ISU?
Vandals by a million.
I just saw distinguished honorary Idaho State alum Jacob Dillon at the Wallflowers concert. He actually does have an honorary degree from Idaho State. I don't know why they don't play that one up more, but Dallas, I think everyone's going to pick Idaho in that game. Thanks for joining, dude. Enjoy the trip. We'll see you next week.
We will see you guys. Judge James, thank you for coming on. Please come back on again. I'd like to do a full show with this crew. So, gentlemen, it's been an honor. I will talk to you all soon.
Okay, so I gotta hit Sac State, and actually I gotta kind of condense this to get out the door pretty quick. So Sacramento State, they have like the easiest schedule in the world after the first 2 weeks. I think there's every chance that Idaho is the first close game the Hornets have in almost 2 months. If you just look at their schedule, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. Check it out, guys. Sac State has a very favorable schedule to start to start the season before closing. So I think I'm going to pick Idaho. And here's the thing I'm going to bring up. A lot of why people are excited about Sac State. Dallas covered with with Marion as the coach and some of the transfers as reason because they contributed elsewhere. I will say, until their quarterbacks actually show they can do anything, I'm not a believer in blue chip transfers to the Big Sky. We've seen too many guys do it and do nothing as blue chip transfers. So, and I'm talking about guys like Dylan McCaffrey, talking about guys like Sam Heward, like that. Those guys have not made a meaningful difference in Big Sky football. They moved down kind of for a reason. Maybe Jaden Rashad is different, but like, hey, it's kind of the same thing. He's moving his way down. Look at Sam Vidlac. I know he did well when he moved from Montana. When he was moving his way down into the Big Sky, he didn't light the world on fire either. So until Rashada does something at Sac State, I think the safest gamble is he's not what everyone thinks he's going to be. To close the season, Idaho State, the best trophy in the Big Sky is on the line. Martin.
Oh, it's not going to be close. I think I was going to say Eck. Ford continues the tradition of always beating the Bengals. It won't be close.
Yeah, I made a sign for this game last year that says Bengal moms were silver and gold. I think that's going to be true again on November 22nd when Idaho beats the Bengals by like 5 billion points.
Yeah, I'm going to go Idaho beats Idaho State too, which I am now slightly terrified that most of us just picked Idaho to have 2 losses on the season with 1 in Big Sky play. Going to go on the record. If Idaho loses 2 games, I would shift that Davis pick. But I mean, if Idaho loses 2 games, I just told you guys I'm sold on Idaho. Martin, you picked almost identical to me, except we flip-flopped on Davis and Sac, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we flip-flopped Davis and Sac. James, we must have sold you because you picked Idaho to lose 2 games to go 10-2 this year as well, man. So yeah. I guess you need to now defend your decision. You obviously came squarely in the camp of Idaho. So
right, your
yeah, I mean,
James.
Probably a little biased. I just got my degree from there. But I came into this, I knew nothing. I fully think Donovan Parham is going to be the best defensive player in the country, at least in the Big Sky Conference. Super high on him. He's the only Vandal before this that I really knew anything about outside of the ones who are returning. I think Idaho's offense under Coach Ford is going to be electric. I wouldn't doubt that we have two major high rushing yard rushers, and it'll be a fun season for Idaho. I would like to see. Speaking of rushers, I want Art Williams to be out on the field as much as we can get him out there. Love that kid. But I think the Big Sky Conference as a whole is weaker than it was last year, and Idaho did pretty damn well in the Big Sky last year. You play a Montana team that has no clue what they're doing, play a UC Davis team that has, I think one of their defenders got preseason defensive player of the year or whatever. But we all know how preseason predictions go. I think Idaho's going to be good, and I think our defense is, as they say, defense wins championships, and our rushing yards are going to be those full calories this season. I don't think we're going to need a lot of empty calories, as Bobby Houck said a couple years ago when we lost to Montana in the Kingdom.
There we go. I would love to hang out and chat more, but I actually got to bounce real quick. So, Martin, I got to dive right into picking the Big Sky.
Let's just fire. I think we're all going to pick the same, but
we can go rapid fire. The first one I think is the easiest one to pick in the world. Idaho State and UNLV. We're going to keep rolling through with Martin, James, and me. Martin, Idaho State, UNLV.
UNLV.
UNLV, and I'm glad I don't have to pay for it this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go UNLV. I will pay attention to see how the offense looks with Jordan Cook running things, but Idaho State has a rough schedule this season. Tarleton State and top 5 Portland State. Isn't that an ESPN game?
It is on ESPN2, and it is in Hillsborough Stadium.
Jesus Christ. Okay, Martin, take it away.
Tarleton State.
You know what? Top 5 Portland State. Why not?
Jeez. Well, why not? Because
fuck, I fucked it up, Brian.
What?
I almost deleted the chart. We're safe. We're safe. Keep going, Ryan.
Jeez. that was dramatic. Yeah, Tarleton State made the playoffs and won 10 games last season. They hung in okay with number 4 South Dakota to close the year. Yes, the rosters are different, but yeah, I'm not picking Portland State to win that game. So Tarleton State for sure. The game of the week, in my mind, this is UC Davis travels to Mercer. By the way, number 11 Mercer.
I think as much as I think Davis is good, I think Mercer is going to win this one.
I agree. Go Bears. I think Mercer is gonna take it home.
Yeah, I gotta say I usually in good when it's a good Big Sky school versus a good another school. If it's not Missouri Valley, I probably err on Big Sky, and I think Davis is a safe team to err on because Davis, like the big thing Davis did is they returned a ton of their defensive contributors from last year, including both Connors brothers. So that Rex Connors, preseason defensive player of the year. I think if Davis was a very good defensive team last season, if they can contribute like they did, if they can play at that level, which there's no reason to think they won't, I think you pencil in Davis and say like, hey, Tim Plow's going to be fine with a new quarterback. In the comment section, we've got Captain 58 needed Davis win to keep the Big Sky teams on the bubble. Jason Mayer picks Mercer over David. And I'm going to read that as David, not Davis. Home team win. Steve Kurtz talking PSU. So quiet out there at top 5 PSU. Captain 58, huge home field advantage in here, Hillsborough. Captain 58, pick the Vikings. No, fuck that. But he does say, talking Idaho, more interesting. Captain 58 says he wouldn't be surprised if Idaho ends up 8-4 and earn a home playoff game in the first round. I mean, like, if you're going to land their Captain, I think what you say is, hey, they lose both the Davis and SAC games, and then they also lose either NAU or WSU. I think I think it should be hard for this Idaho team to finish worse than 8-4, maybe worst case scenario 7-5. but there's a lot of things in Idaho's favor. We're going to call today. We've gone way longer than we meant to. James, great to have you. Glad we were able to sell you. Do you feel like less of a normie now that you've been here for a minute?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of understand what Idaho's going to look like. I'm very excited for the season. I'm going to roll into Pullman about 4 hours before game time starts after a 10-hour drive there. So that'll be a fun one.
Dallas will be back next week to talk the WSU game. We're going to try to work on a very special guest. And next week, yeah, well, we might go Wednesday next week, but then, hey, full disclosure, guys, my clinical schedule means we can't go Wednesdays after next week. So we'll see if we can enjoy one more next week because the coaches show does start. They got some new things rolling there too. Anyway, I have to bounce, guys. Thanks for coming. As always, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.